Oh, yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Environment and Services Committee of Weymouth Town Council today on the 8th of July. For the purpose of the public and the recording, my name is Councillor Ryan Hope, the Board Member for Weston West and the Chair of this committee this evening. My Vice Chair is Councillor Lee Harmsworth. As the last meeting, councillors, I propose that we have a good discussion on every item before moving forward to any recommendation. It just makes things move a lot smoothly, and then we can come up with a joint recommendation, hopefully where we will agree. We do have a lot of members of the public here this evening. It's great to see you all here, and we do encourage members of the public to come to our meetings and submit questions. So when we get to public questions, members of the public who have submitted a question will be able to read their question out and receive a response. I will take the opportunity now to remind members of the public, though, as it's not on our agenda and we do not have all the information, we will not be able to debate that as a set of councillors. So should we wish to take that forward, it will require councillors to move forward with a PID, and then we can discuss it at a future meeting. Moving on to item 2 on our agenda this evening is apologies for absence. Please.
We have apologies from Councillor Jill Taylor, and we were expecting Councillor Band to attend as substitute, so not arrived as yet.
She may still arrive, but for now, I will be proposing that. Councillor Harmsworth will second. All those in favour of accepting the apologies. Thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. Do any members of the committee have any declarations of interest on our agenda this evening?
We've got none pre-notified, Chair.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Moving on to item 4 is the minutes of the last meeting, and we're being asked to approve the minutes of the last meeting as a true and accurate record. If there are no comments, I will propose, and Councillor Harmsworth will second, and I'm asking the committee for a vote to support. Unanimous. Thank you very much. We move forward to item 5, which are councillor questions and statements, and then we're pre-notified. So we move swiftly on to item 6, which are public questions. And the first question I have is from Mr. Mark Ellis.
Thank you. I'm not used to this. I live in Chickle, but I'm a Weymouth person. I'm told that you don't have a correspondence received section, so I'm going to ask the questions here. The first question is pedestrian access along the promenade. Since the Esplanade was expanded around, the depth of it was expanded around the Jubilee Clock, there's been numerous events held there with no considerations for pedestrians to use the promenade. This especially includes the dance that goes up on Facebook from time to time. I'd like to suggest, I'm hoping that the council will take some of this forward for me, because I can't write to the council as you are. I'm hoping that somebody will take forward a line of some sort of railing, not fixed railings, but some sort of permanent railing, so that there's a 4 metre wide pedestrian corridor between the Jubilee Clock onto the promenade, to keep the motorbikes and the cars and the military vehicles and the dancing and all the rest of it clear, so they can get through, pedestrians can get through. My second one is litter on the seafront. You're very keen to invite people to come to Plymouth, but there's very little encouragement to take the litter home again. I'm aware of the Weymouth and Portland marine litter project or campaign. They need now a ban, and I don't know if the council has a ban they could use, or they could donate to them 10,000. They've got a GoFundMe thing, which you just waste your money on funding GoFundMe. But maybe you could fund something towards that, especially when I hear that you're spending £50,000 on the sea life, the seafood festival, which is a bit of a waste. Can you increase the number of book bins on the seafront during the summer? Because even though there's multiple dog bins, they're still throwing it every evening, and there's volunteers clearing the beach. Try and keep it all tidy for people. And my final one is the fireworks. I know fireworks have been discussed before, and I know that you've got 2 quiet and 3 ordinary fireworks. The issue isn't the noise of the fireworks going up. And bear in mind, I live in Chickerell. The issue is the noise of the Big Bang when it gets up there. The Big Bang, it's not the same as a tank firing, and people can't lock their horses and sheep and cattle in the back room for any reason. It's the decibel of the final Big Bang, which is added for atmosphere. And you could ask, if you wanted to, if somebody was taking this forward, you could ask the contractors, I know you've got a 5-year contract now, you could ask them not to use high decibel bangs on the fireworks, please. That's
Okay.
what I.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ellis. Thank you for all those points. I will state, just for clarity, that we can give you a detailed response to the first question, because that was submitted to us in advance, so we've got the information to respond. The other 2, we'll have to come back to you with some more information. But I am going to hand over to our town clerk to respond. So to you, Jane.
Thank you, Chair. I will speak to the council's event officer around ensuring that a public thoroughfare is maintained during events, both ones that the council run and ones that are run by third parties. To extend the promenade, if even possible, would be extremely costly and would require a project initiation document to be put forward. If any councillor wished capacity to be allocated to exploring that work stream, that would need to be put forward by a councillor. On the litter on the seafront, we are aware of the fundraising currently going on by the marine litter people, who do a wonderful job, and they have been pointed in the direction of our grant stream. The bins are regularly emptied, and unfortunately what we find is, regardless of how many bins there are, some people simply do not want to use bins. But that does not deter us from working with the Marine Litter Group, with Dorset Council, and with all the groups that do litter pick on the seafront, to do whatever we can to try and get it through to people that leaving litter on the beach is not a great life decision to make. And on the firework front, they either come in standard fireworks or they come in reduced noise. And as noted, the council are having a mix of those displays throughout the summer. Thank you, Chairman.
I will just mention as well, because I know you said around 50,000 from this council to the Seafood Festival. That was not this council that funded that, so that's just for a matter of accuracy also.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much though for attending those questions. Like I said, we always welcome them. The next question I have is from Amanda Paul.
I'll stand up, so I've got a smaller voice. Where shall I stand?
Very
Is that
right.
okay? Equally, I'm not used to this, so I'm glad you said that. So I'm representative with the WI and some family as well. So have you considered the impact on vulnerable people, young families, baby changing facilities, the elderly, and people on a reduced income when deciding to remove free public toilet facilities in Weymouth? If that's the case, maybe it's a rumour, I don't know. And I'm just going to give you a little piece from the WI, the National WI. You're all probably be aware of the Women's Institute, the WI. We're the largest body of women's movement in the UK. We do campaign to government. Each year we have a resolution and that goes to government, and it's things like more midwives and all of this sort of thing. I'll just read out their resolution for this year. The National Federation of Women's Institutes passed the Accessible Public Toilet Facilities Resolution on the 4th of June 2026 with a 95% majority, so that's nationally. This mandate calls for accessible, clean and free public toilets to promote inclusion, health and dignity for women, older people, disabled individuals, parents and carers. There's obviously lots of issues. It's not just these people. Obviously, men have issues as well about using the public toilets. There's lots of concern. I work for the community mental health team in Weymouth. I've spoken to a few of my clients. They already are quite isolated. in their own homes because of their mental health problems, and quite often have problems with going to the toilets through anxiety and other mental health problems. And they already worry when they leave their homes, are they going to make it to the toilet and the next toilet? And they haven't also got the funds to, to pay for the toilets. And say myself, I've got 5 adult children now, but I used to have 5 younger children. If each one of them children needed to go to the toilet at separate times when we were out and about on the beach or whatever, then that would have been costing me quite a lot of money. So I'm quite concerned generally, as are the WI, and a few people have come along to support me today. I know people think that WI are a group of women that bake cakes and drink tea, but I can assure you we're much more than that. So, and perhaps we could get involved more with what goes on in Women Council from time to time. So, yeah. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for the question, and again, I'm going to hand over to the town clerk to respond.
Thank you, Chair. The impact on vulnerable people, young families, older residents and those on lower incomes was considered when introducing charging at the 2 public toilet facilities where the council have already introduced charging, those being Cove Street and Overcombe. The Swannery was chargeable before this council was formed in 2019, and so we inherited that facility as is. So currently only 3 of Weymouth's 10 public toilet blocks are chargeable, with the majority remaining free to use. Each chargeable site also includes at least 1 accessible toilet that can be accessed using a radar key, which is readily available through a range of suppliers, and that will continue for each of the toilet blocks as they are assessed in turn. The income generated from these charges helps to support the cleaning, maintenance and upkeep of the facilities. The introduction of charging has also led to a reduction in vandalism and misuse at these locations, helping to keep the toilets in better condition for everyone who uses them. The council will continue to review its public toilet provision to ensure facilities remain accessible and sustainable for residents and visitors alike. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, town clerk. Also, just picking up on your last point there around supporting and working with Weymouth Town Council, I suggest you contact Rachel James, who's our community development worker, because I'm sure there's lots of community networking going on and events that you may like to get involved with as women's institutions. So we can pass those details on from the email that you submitted.
Can I just ask, there's lots of rumours going around Weymouth about the fact that you're thinking about charging for all the toilets. Is that not the case?
We don't generally go back and forward, but given the amount of people that come to hear this evening, I will allow the town clerk just to come back and clarify that.
So the committee has made the decision that in all the future refurbishments, which is scheduled over the next 8 years, charging will be considered as part of that. Now, there might be some toilets where charging we can't bring in, so it's not a given that all of them will be, but it will be considered as part of the refurbishment as agreed by this committee.
I hope they do. I hope you are able to consider people, the groups of people that that's brought up.
And as I said, Chair, they will, all of our facilities will include access for those radar people.
But it's not just about the radar.
Sorry, Amanda. We can't
Okay.
go back and forward because we've got an agenda to follow, but I say if you want to submit a follow-up question, or I know you're one of my residents, you're more than welcome to contact myself, Jill or Simon, we can have a further discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you to the members of the public for submitting those questions, and you will receive a written response also, which may clarify some of those points further. We now move forward to item 7 on our agenda, which is the CEE scrutiny task and finish group. The purpose of anyone listening at home, I don't like acronyms as much as the others, that is the climate and economic emergency scrutiny task and finish group. And I'm going to hand over once again to Jane Biscombe, our town clerk, to introduce the report, please.
Chair.
Sorry, yes, I should have said if you want to leave, you're more than welcome to leave. We don't expect you to stay for the whole meeting, but of course, you're more than welcome.
Thank you, Chair. At the full council meeting in January 2026, councillors agreed to commit to a service review by mid-September of the council's CEE activity, spend and strategy. The report before you tonight is to facilitate the progression of that work and request the agreement of terms of reference which are attached as Appendix A, and to agree the names of councillors to sit on this task and finish group to allow us to start that work as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Moving forward, as we always do, I say always do since the last meeting, are there any technical or questions on any points on the paper, please, or the appendix? No, okay. Then we move forward then to the discussion and debate. Anyone like to kickstart us off? No, silence.
I would make a proposal.
You're happy to make a proposal, councillor O'Leary. Well, if nobody wants to make any comments, then I will allow councillor O'Leary to move to a proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we're just agreeing to a task and finish group, I would like to propose that we do set up a task and finish group, and I would like to put myself forward as the representative of the Conservative group on that working group.
Thank you very much, councillor O'Leary.
I don't know if you wanted those separately. I don't know if you wanted a proposal for the task and finish and then work out membership.
I'm happy to be led by the committee. The committee's happy to take A and B together in the paper. That's okay. Or if anyone wanted to split the two, then I'm happy to split. Councillor Toft.
Can I query whether members, other councillors are not obviously for a moment to be on the start and finish group?
Town Clerk, you just want to clarify that?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Whether the other members of the council not on this committee are allowed to be on this start and finish group?
Other councillors who are part of this committee are able to be on that task and finish group, and as always, these meetings are open to all councillors to attend if they wish to. And being that it's not a decision-making group, all councillors are welcome to attend.
I believe that's written into standing law in the.
Thank you very much, councillor. So I'm not getting anyone to say we're not going to take the two together. So councillor O'Leary has asked for proposed a recommendation. I propose if I ask for a seconder, and then we will ask for names to sit on the working group. Is there a seconder to the proposal? Councillor Bell. Thank you very much. And moving to debate and proposals for task and finish group. With councillor O'Leary, anybody else? Councillor Weller.
No, not to put my name forward, because I'm not qualified to do so. But just to ask a question, if I may, Chairman. When do we, the reason I'm asking this question is because it's relevant to the next agenda item. So I'm just wondering whether we can firm up, as far as these things are possible, a timetable, because task and finish groups can drift on if we aren't careful, and since it says that the allotment scrutiny, allotment review and task and finish group is dependent upon completing the CEE task and finish group, and I regard the allotment review as quite important given the number of emails I receive on a weekly basis. I wouldn't want it delayed because the task and finish group has been delayed.
Members are aware that the deputy leader, councillor Furman, is doing a big shake-up on task and finish groups to make sure they're sticking to deadlines, working and delivering. And as per item 7 in the introduction, it does say that this task and finish group, being the CEE, will be looking to finalise by mid-September. So that will mean. Anybody else wants to nominate himself? If not, I know councillor Furman is happy to be appointed. He has wrote to me and put his name forward. That's 2. Do we have any other councillor Toft? 3. There's 3 on there in this committee.
I might vote John, but I'll have to confirm with him.
Okay, councillor O'Leary.
Can I just seek some clarity, because while I understand that members of the Green Group will be interested in this line of inquiry, I do want to ensure that the certain political groups aren't overrepresented on that compared to others, or the group gets oversubscribed.
So I believe, councillor O'Leary, any of our tasks not finished.
Nicky David.
Sorry, councillor O'Leary, you're responding to your point there. I don't believe there is a maximum amount of people needs to be on there, therefore proportionality is hard to determine. Personally,
Right, then we'll go on it then, please.
and it's non-political, and that's where I was going to, was to say, I would personally prefer anyone with an interest or experience in an area to serve on that task and finish group, so we get the best out of our councillors. We may disagree, but their findings will come back to this committee for committee discussion. Can always be called in by full council, still then if the discussion not agreed, so.
Just, greatest respect, I don't think any of us have experienced enough. I agree with Kate, you know, I'm not experienced enough, but I agree with Louis. You know, you really need to have it right across the spectrum.
Thanks a lot.
Since I've consulted briefly with my Labour colleague, who is not particularly anxious to serve, I think that despite the fact that I'm not an expert on these matters whatsoever, I've done a fair amount, and I'd be happy to, if you need me to get a working number there.
Sorry, can I just clarify what I'm saying in my previous comments? You don't have to be an expert to sit around, an interest or some background knowledge.
Exactly.
Or an expert.
So that is where we go to, and of course, anyone can support and work with the group. We had this situation at F&G at the last meeting where I watched recording back where appointments went a little bit silly, and I'm trying to avoid that. There is no limit. If anyone's interested, put your hand up and we can take it on block. And then, of course, anyone from out of the committee can also be invited to join. And it comes back to this committee for the final discussion and decision anyway.
Yes.
So far, I've got councillor O'Leary, councillor Dickinson, councillor Tom, councillor Nickinson, councillor Allrail. It's 5. Councillor Bell, you were.
I feel I ought to, of all the task and finish groups, you're talking about background. My background is a degree in geography with a focus on many of these pieces of work, so I will endeavour to be there when I can.
Councillor Bell, councillor Weller, you'll have to go on there. Councillor Harris, you were saying as well, I hear you at the back there, you were interested in joining as well. Okay,
Yeah.
We're almost up to a whole council, then, isn't it?
Why don't we have full council? Hey Louis, where did you go?
so let's,
I just want to say, I think it is important that the committee is not dominated by people who've been on the committee, including myself, because in a sense, what's the point of having it? Because they're going to come down in favour of it, aren't they? Because they've put a lot of time into it already. So I think it's important we have a balance of people who aren't particularly supportive rather than just people who are supportive.
okay, so those points are in there. That is one of the largest working groups the council's had. But as again, standing orders do not state numbers or proportionality, I'm happy to take that forward. I think town clerk, you just want to make a comment made to me there.
Just from an operational point of view, Chair, the more people on committee, the more difficult it becomes to set up meetings and the longer this process will take. And just to remind all councillors that it is on the agenda for the member briefing on Wednesday next week, Thursday next week, Wednesday, a day next week.
Okay, councillor Barrett.
To ease the conflict of calendars that's going to come up here, if I come off it, so it's quite likely with my new role at DC, it'll be harder for me to attend. I note from the report, it says, however, meetings can be attended and participated in by any member of town councillor. I will try to be there, but I don't necessarily need to be on that list. So if you take me off that, I will endeavour to be there, but it drops the numbers slightly.
Okay, thank you, councillor Barrett. Right, there's 8 names, I think they're up on the screen behind me, I've got eyes in the back of my head. Councillor O'Leary, are you happy to propose?
Happy.
And it was being seconded by councillor Bell. Any comments, last comments? If not, we move forward to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you very much. We now move forward to item 8, which is the allotment scrutiny task and finish group. And again, we're being asked to agree the terms of reference as Appendix B and to agree names of councillors to sit on that task and finish group. I'm now going to hand over to the town clerk, even though I probably said she was going to say, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you. I do have something to add, Chair. So, thank you for handing over. At the last meeting, councillors agreed to set up an allotment scrutiny task and finish group to comprise of 3 councillors, the Green Spaces manager and other officers as appropriate. Although the group's work will not start until the agreed CEE review has been completed, as councillor Wells noted, prior notification of membership will allow officers to set the meetings up as soon as is appropriate, and the agreed terms of reference ensures that the scope and remit of the group is understood. Councillors are asked to note that there is a typo in the draft terms of reference where CEE is mentioned at the bottom of the page. I highlighted it there. With regards to non-political working, I have a refreshed copy to table as this version to be voted on tonight, and this is now shown on the screen behind me with the amendment highlighted in yellow. My profound thanks to Councillor Thurman for spotting this deliberate error to ensure that everybody has read the papers prior to the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Very well played, Town Clerk. We all fall victim to those crib sheets now and again, don't we? First of all, we move forward to any technical questions, please. Nope. We then move forward to any discussion or debate. No, I then look for a proposer. Next up.
You don't need this room.
So we'll move, what we'll do is the same as we did last time. We'll get the proposer in a second, then appoint the names and take the vote. Councillor Weller. Councillor Nicholson. And now do I have any nominations, please, for those 3 names? Mr. Weller, of course. The allotment scrutiny. I'm happy to go on then. The allotments in my ward. That leaves us 1 vacant place which can be co-opted on to out of this group as needed be. Any comments? We move forward then, Councillor.
Are you happy that I email councillors to determine that 3rd place without having to come back to the committee?
I think we're happy, and if we're subscribed and myself and makes the hard work. As Chair and Vice Chair, members are happy to do that down, narrow that down, the same as the last that any councillor can attend anyway. We then move forward then to recommendation by Councillor Weller, seconded by Councillor Nicholson. All those in favour? That is unanimous, thank you very much. And our last item on the agenda this evening is Weymouth Urban Country Park PID, which is a project initiation document for those that don't like acronyms. I'm going to ask Jane just to briefly introduce and hand over to Councillor Harris, who's proposed the PID.
Thank you, Chair. The only information from me is that the papers were duly received in the required timeframe in the required format, are attached as Appendix C, and I do have a map also, which I understand Councillor Harris was. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Harris, before I call you forward, I just, again, following the last committee meeting we had, want to remind members that we're not actually here to debate the detail of an urban country park. We're here to either say we support a paper being brought forward, giving us the information to debate, or we do not want that paper brought forward. They are the 2 options we're looking to discuss this evening, not the detail. That will come to us later. Councillor Harris.
Just trying to get my mind around what you just said. The paper, the PID that I presented to you will not actually cost this council anything in this first year of its implementation, but it does require some time and effort put in by a potential member of staff that we agreed at the last HR meeting we would be looking for, which is a project officer to help run some of this. Because the idea, picking up what the chairman has just said, is that we get some further details sorted out, and then we will have a proper plan presented to us, which will have costings in it, because it will actually be much more specific in what it's asking people to do or to vote for. The plan in itself just joins up, and this is where the map is coming in, but I don't think we need the map, Jen. I think it doesn't actually show what we really wanted to show. The country park being suggested does go from the town centre. It's basically to the east of the river. At the start, it may go into other areas. It will certainly possibly include the Wey Valley eventually. The Broadwell Trail will certainly join into it as a potential. But the main part of the park is joining up all the green areas that are to the east of the river. And that is Radipole Lake, Radipole Woods, the park and ride area, 2 Mile Copse, Lawton Meadows, Lodmore Bird Reserve, Lodmore Country Park, and the seafront along, and then back into Radipole Lake and Radipole Park Gardens. It will also obviously include got immediately. It's there. They're nearly all joined up already. But if you think about Weymouth and Portland, or Weymouth, if you think about Weymouth, we promote the beach, we promote the harbour as excellent places for tourists to come to. We've got a huge, beautiful internal area of countryside. Let us promote that. This idea was around about 6 years ago. Last year, Dorset Council invited me to submit the ideas to them so that they could submit them to the government to see if they could get £1 million. So Dorset Council appeared to be a partner to this and would come in and help us with some of the work and some of the ideas. It needs to be looked at fairly promptly and to get a proper plan agreed by the council, because one of the things which Dorset Council are planning to do will be to have some discussions eventually on the park and ride scheme. Now, if you consider the areas that I've shared with you, the potential of the park and ride scheme being the centre hub for the country park would be something which is very sensible to consider. If you had a building there, it could have the tick for Weymouth, it could have hiring out bikes, it could have sharing the different types of walking, the different types of riding on bikes. It could actually have a viewing point over the Lodmore Bird Reserve if it was built on that side of the park and ride, and it would actually give the park and ride also something serious to consider. So that's the picture, and as I say, the actual ideas do not require any serious funding at this point in time. It does require some time from the new project development officer that we're hoping to appoint. I think that's probably all I need to say at this point, but I'll be open to questions in the same way as the chair has been asking for the types of ideas, the technical ideas to be just asked about before we actually leave it to the committee to make the final proposals. Are there any questions about the things that I've shared with you, as well as the report that came in to you?
Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. As you said, we're going to move now into the technical questions, which is around some of the detailed questions in the PID. But again, we're digging right down at the moment. We're just discussing the concept, the idea of moving this forward. Councillor Brown, you had your hand up.
I've got a couple of questions actually. My first one is, so the paper that we're going to vote on today, will that come back to ENS or will it go to full council? Like the proposal?
It will probably stay with ENS, so the officers will draw up a detailed report, giving us more information of what's needed to achieve this. That will come back here, and then depending on the budget constraints, it may need to go to F&G also, but I don't think it will report.
Thank you. And my second question is how, so I know in terms of actually spending money on stuff, it's not going to cost us anything, but what have we got a rough costing of officer time that it might take to prepare the paper? Like how many man hours it would take ish?
Town clerk, would you like to?
Unfortunately, I can't give an estimate at this time because we don't know how long this particular piece of string is going to be when we start revisiting it. But I'm hoping that when our new project manager starts, it can be a priority project for them to work on if agreed by the committee tonight.
Thank you, that's both my questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Bear.
I'm seeking a bit of clarity for myself as potential conflicts of interest here. In the section that says other organisational support, it talks about DC and specifically named public health. As the cabinet member for public health, as well as many other things, do I need to step away at this stage? Or as this is just putting forward officer time, my view is I'm probably okay to stay in the debate this evening. Just want to clarify that.
So, Town Clerk, you just want to respond to that?
Yeah, I don't feel there's any need for you to step away from the debate at this point, because this is just to agree to the project being worked up and not the actual detail or requirements from partners in that project.
Perfect. I just wanted to make that clear. Can I come in with another point?
Please.
I really like the concept. I like the idea of signage, which I know we've talked about before, Councillor Toff bringing forward him previously about signage. So I understand that. I love the idea of letting tourists know about the inland options. Really, really good. I do have some concerns around the partnership rate. I think it's a very, very substantial piece of work when you start bringing in things like bike paths, for example. It's not to say it's not insurmountable, but that would be a substantial piece of the work, would be working with Dorset Council with highways, which isn't my division, but it would be a substantial piece of work. I just wanted to make that clear at the start that particularly members of the public who may hear about this, that this cannot be, Weymouth Town Council. It's only made that clear in the paper, but I just wanted to highlight that this is very much incumbent on partner organisations who have the ownership, and we've made that clear in paper, but just to voice that. So concept wise, I think it's great. It's really hard to price up time and costings for this, because it will partly be determined by the response that those outside organisations give and the time that they can give, and that all factors into this. So it's quite complicated from that point of view. But as far as sort of putting forward that this is a lovely idea, beneficial to the town, I can support that at this stage, and then it would be with interest that I read any future report.
Very much. Rural members, we are still in technical questions, so it's around any technical questions on the process or any particular points in the paper before the concept, anything like that. So
Can I follow with the question then?
no, you don't need to. I'm just reminding everyone
I can do then.
you can do, yes.
Would the reaction of Dorset Council influence officer time? Would cost come down if Dorset Council supported on any areas?
Can I come in a little bit on that one? First of all, I think that we must remember that this is a project that may take 10 years. Because we won't do everything all at once. And there will be an opportunity of having something that is worth sharing with our tourists, with ourselves. But we will be adding to it on a regular basis. And that's where some of the potential question that you asked comes in. Secondly, obviously, if we wanted to get Dorset Council properly involved, that would be fantastic, because we won't be able to build a building on the park and ride site. But it would be an aspiration that we would be pushing the Dorset Council or a private company to be involved with, if that's the way Dorset Council wants to work, because it's their land. So we can't persuade Dorset Council to necessarily come in, but we can certainly ask them if it's an aspiration of ours.
Again, all this more detailed stuff will come out in further document from Lloyd. Next, I've got Councillor Dickinson.
I mean, what you've just said, I fully understand, but public liability insurance, how does that work with something? This concept is absolutely brilliant. I'm not saying that, but how does that work with public liability insurance in the future? I mean, how do you man all that and everything? Is that something that I would have to find out later on, or?
If I may, Chair, if I can just take one step back before I come to that point, I would echo what David Harris said, that this is a project that would benefit from a long-term phased approach, with the initial phase being how can we conceptualise this, get a leaflet out that maps all those green spaces and where the paths are to move between them freely and easily. That I don't believe would have a high level of risk with it, because the footpaths are already existing, the prom already exists, the pavements already exist. What we would be doing would be pulling it together into that conceptual, this is where you can walk, this is where you can go, this is where the nearest toilets are, the nearest cafes are, the nearest car parks are, to allow that accessible flow of people walking.
Will
through
we
the
be
area.
liable
So
for maintenance from then on then?
the footpaths already exist, the rights of way already exist, pavements already exist. There might be a few negotiations with landowners where new pieces of path are needed, but the liability would rest with the landowner, and we would talk about that as we took the project forward. Thank you.
Okay, councillor Dickinson. Next up, councillor Atkinson.
Yeah, I wonder at what stage it is that will be an opportunity for councillors to put in their ideas and priorities into the PID process, or do we just wait till it comes in and then suggest things that could have been considered?
That's an interesting one. One would assume that when an officer is appointed, they will come back to us, and especially if our water in this area, to say, do you know about, what do you know that I don't know? What can you shape? So we can assure that if we vote on this evening, that local members and board members of this area are included in those discussions, I'm sure.
Yeah, can I say an example? I can bang it on as usual. Longmore is the most birdwatch site in Dorset, apart from Portlandville. It's got a large checklist. So my mind is it's a priority for what should be improved and made more accessible to people.
Thank you very much, and great opportunity to give that a plug once again.
I can help answer that one too.
Yeah.
When we first looked at this idea a few years ago, the RSPB, Dorset Wildlife Trust, Woodland Trust were all very much in favour of having something like this happen. So the RSPB, I'm sure, will be very much keen to help us promote Longmore Bird Reserve. We'll try and persuade them.
Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, I just want to try and bring this back to where it is. This is just an idea at the minute, and I'd like us to sort of move on to debate if possible, because it's just a concept, and yeah, as opposed to getting into the nitty gritty now, that's for later. That's
I will just check that. Anyone else want a technical detail on the question of the process or anything like that? No, we now move on to debate. Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I said, all PIDs, this is just a concept council has put forward. Council has every right to do so. Is the ward member who covers Teddybear Woods and some of the other areas. Obviously, I will have a few questions, particularly around trying to open that area for tourists. Actually, it's quite nice at the minute. That's still a place where it's predominantly residents that get to enjoy it away from the busy tourist areas. So that's something to actually take into account, as well as what would be the actual practical difference in 10 years' time to using those areas. But those are all things to be looked at a later date. So I think, I don't know if it's needed to be proposed, but propose and move on and get it working through the mill.
Okay, but before we go to that proposal, I will just allow Councillor Weller to speak his own hands up first, and then Mike will come back to you for the proposal.
Thank you very much. If Councillor O'Leary wants to propose that we start some initial work on the PID, I'm very happy to second him on that. I think it's very aspirational, and I think that we need to manage those aspirations. It certainly would be a phased long-term project. It's not something that we could achieve alone. I echo Councillor Atkinson. I also don't have the confidence that Councillor Harris has in the RSPB. We have the only two urban bird reserves in the country. And currently the RSPB do not spend anything like enough money promoting those. This might help them realise how very, I think they know how very important it is, but that doesn't encourage them to spend the money that they need to. This might. So I would like us to get on and do that initial research, get something, and let us look at it as it goes forward. Bearing in mind this is a very long project, but it could be a very worthwhile one.
Your option, Mr. Weller. Okay, Councillor O'Leary has proposed, Councillor Weller has seconded. We now move forward. Does anyone want to speak before I move to the votes? No, we're going to move forward then. All those in favour of moving forward? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move forward to information items, item 10 on the agenda. These are for noting if there's any questions before that. But what I will add here, and I think the town clerk will join me in a bit more information, is to state that we have been approached by a drone company who wishes to do a demonstration off of Weymouth. We do have some money in budget that we could potentially get. Because of the timings of this, there wasn't time to bring a report forward to this committee. So I've asked the town clerk, which she'd asked me if it'd be okay to take it to F&G instead, and I've said yes, so we'll be able to go forward to F&G and discuss that further. Anything to add, town clerk?
Just that we've had some positive and really exciting initial discussions with this company. And I hope to be able to bring forward for a pilot event in the autumn. And that would allow the council to gauge public support when considering summer displays in the future. And it's unfortunate the gentleman who asked the public question earlier isn't here to hear this. And I hope that information will get to him and to other people. 3 of the main feedback points we get after one of our firework displays is they're too loud, you need quieter ones. I don't like the quieter ones, I want the loud ones. And then a lot of people saying, why don't you use drone displays? And as I have maintained for several years, at some point, the market competition and the technology will mean that it's a viable financial prospect for the council to consider. And we are at that point now. It's very exciting. I feel if it came to E&S, it would need to go to finance and governance to find the money. And in order to get it there in the autumn, I am suggesting that we go straight to finance and governance, just to allow that pilot in the autumn half term to go ahead. Thank you for mentioning it, Chair. I do appreciate that.
Thanks for making something.
Sorry, councillor Owens before me.
No, if I just wanted to speak on a couple of the information items at the appropriate time, that's also, thanks.
Chair, I was just wondering, are we not just going to have one company quote for us, are we? We will go out to tender for this.
However, at the moment, it's only one company that can offer it at a comparable cost to the fireworks. But if it's the council's wish to move forward, we would of course go out and tender for that as financial regulations.
Thank you very much. Councillor Weller, we may be able to give you an answer on some of your questions.
It's not answers, it's bringing up points on them, if I may, on the information items. Really, there are two matters on the information items that I've had a lot of correspondence on. I think all members will have had some of this correspondence, so I just wanted to be able to comment on them to demonstrate that we don't just get emails and nod, and we don't just do nothing, you know. The emails that I've received and comments that I've had, I have spoken to officers about there's stuff in the report, but it's not as comprehensive as the questions that I've had asked by residents. So I just wanted to add a little on that, if I may. If not, it's a shame, because they are questions that residents are asking.
Yeah, okay, if it's, I feel it's not right because the officers that aren't here who have written the reports.
But the officers are answering my questions.
Yeah, generally we ask any comments or questions on information items to be presented, so that if it does need further discussion or points, that the officers are here then to give those questions and answers.
Okay, so can I just say publicly, since we're being recorded, I've got answers to the questions that people have emailed me and asked me. It would have been really nice to be able to give the answers now. And I will respond to all of those emails, and if they've got further questions, they can email me again and I'll respond to those. That's fine.
So I'm sure that goes with any ward councillor here that gets questions on emails, but
I've never
you
had.
know, we have that process in place, and it is just to make sure that the information comes back and is given.
Other members, if you'd like answers to these questions, I've got the answers, I'll forward them to you.
Well, we don't know the question.
The questions or the question were on the cemetery, the cremation services. Okay, well, that was the biggest one.
We have that as a committee and we have the response, so I'm happy, and like I say, if members have got questions on information items, then it should be presented as councillor questions so that we can give you the information and the response questions. Okay. If there's no other points, we're then going to close the meeting at 19:49, and thank everyone for their attendance.
Oh, where's the live stream?